The ASMARtist. Hello guys, I'm the ASMARtist. We're trying out a new kind of video here with the new microphone. And it's actually not in a stereo pattern, so you'll hear these sounds in both ears because I have it on a cardioid pattern for voiceover. I've got a fire going in the background. And we're going to read this book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for Hat, or a portion of it. This was a book that I used in the ASMR in the Woods video, and I got at least 2 people that said it sounded really interesting, so we're going to read a passage from this. It's basically a bunch of stories from a clinical psychologist or physiologist or something, and it's just interesting tales of human psychology and certain things, and it's very interesting. It's hard to explain, but you will see. We're gonna read number 9, the President's Speech, on page 80. I thought this one was really interesting because this has like interesting stories just of psychology and stuff, but it's also I think there's little lessons and subtle meanings and stuff, so let me know if you pick up on that. So, number 9, the President's Speech. What was going on? A roar of laughter from the aphasia ward. Just as the President's speech was coming on, and they all had been so eager to hear the President speaking. There he was, the old charmer, the actor, with all his practiced rhetoric and his historianisms, his emotional appeal, and all of the patients were convulsed with laughter. Well, not all. Some looked bewildered, some looked outraged, 1 or 2 looked apprehensive, but most looked amused. The President was, as always, moving, but he was moving them apparently mainly to laughter. What could they be thinking? Were they failing to understand him, or did they perhaps understand him all too well? And by the way, this is not a recent book. These are stories from the 70s and 80s, so I'm pretty sure they're referring to Ronald Reagan here whenever they say the actor. It was often said of these patients, who, though intelligent, had the severest receptive or global aphasia, rendering them incapable of understanding words as such, that they none the less understood most of what was said to them. Their friends, their relatives, the nurses who all knew them well, could hardly believe sometimes that they were aphasic. This was because, when addressed naturally, they grasped some or most of the meaning, and one does speak naturally. Thus, to demonstrate their aphasia, one had to go to extraordinary lengths as a neurologist to speak and behave unnaturally, to remove all the extraverbal cues, tone of voice, intonation, suggestive emphasis or inflection, as well as all visual cues, one's expressions, one's gestures, one's entire, largely unconscious personal repertoire and posture. One had to remove all of this, which might involve total concealment of one's person and total depersonalization of one's voice, even to using a computerized voice synthesizer, in order to reduce speech to pure words, speech totally devoid of what Fredge called tone color or evocation. With most sensitive patients, it was only with such a grossly artificial, mechanical speech, somewhat like that of the computers in Star Trek, that could be wholly sure of their aphasia. Why was this? Because speech, natural speech, does not consist of words alone, nor, as Hughlings Jackson thought, propositions alone. It consists of utterance, and uttering forth of one's whole meaning with one's whole being, the understanding of which involves infinitely more than mere word recognition, and this was the clue to aphasiac's understanding, even when they might be wholly uncomprehending of words as such. For though the words, the verbal constructions per se, might convey nothing, spoken language is normally suffused with tone, embedded with an expressiveness which transcends the verbal. And it is precisely this expressiveness, so deep, so various, so complex, so subtle, which is perfectly preserved in aphasia, though understanding of words be destroyed. Preserved and often more preternaturally enhanced. This too becomes clear, often in the most striking or comic or dramatic way, to all of those who work or live closely with aphasiacs, their families or friends or nurses or doctors. At first, perhaps, we see nothing much the matter, and then we see that there has been a great change, almost an inversion, in their understanding of speech. Something has gone, has been devastated, it is true, but something has come in its stead, has been immensely enhanced, so that, at least with emotionally laden utterance, the meaning may be fully grasped even when every word is missed. This, in our species Homo locans, seems almost an inversion of the usual order of things, an inversion and perhaps a reversion, too, to something more primitive and elemental. And this perhaps is why Hughlings Jackson compared aphasiacs to dogs, a comparison that might outrage both, though when he did this he was chiefly thinking about their linguistic incompetences rather than their remarkable and almost infallible sensitivity to tone and feeling. Henry Head, the more sensitive in this regard, speaks of feeling tone in his 1926 treatise on aphasia that stresses how it is preserved and often enhanced in aphasiacs. Thus the feeling I sometimes have, which all of us who work closely with aphasiacs have, that one cannot lie to an aphasiac. He cannot grasp your words and so cannot be deceived by them, but what he grasps with infallible precision, namely the expression that goes with the words, that total spontaneous involuntary expressiveness which can never be simulated or faked as words alone can all too easily. We recognize this with dogs and often use them for this purpose, to pick up falsehood or malice or equivocal intentions, to tell us who can be trusted, who is integral, and who makes sense, when we, so susceptible to words, cannot trust our own instincts. And what dogs can hear, aphasiacs do too, at a human and immeasurably superior level. One can lie with the mouth, Nietzsche writes, but with the accompanying grimace one nevertheless tells the truth. To such a grimace, to any falsity or impropriety in body appearance or posture, aphasiacs are preternaturally sensitive, and if they cannot see one, this is especially true to our blind aphasiacs, they have an infallible ear for every vocal nuance, the tone, the rhythm, the cadences, the music, the subtlest modulations, inflections, intonations, which can give or remove verisimilitude to or from a man's voice. In this, then, lies their power of understanding without words, what is authentic or inauthentic. Thus it was the grimaces, the historianisms, the false gestures, and above all, the false tones and cadences of the voice, which rang false for them, for these wordless but immensely sensitive patients. It was these, for them, most glaring, even grotesque, incongruities and improprieties that my aphasiac patients responded, undeceived and undeceivable by words. This is why they laughed at the president's speech. One cannot lie to an aphasiac in view of his special sensitivity to expression and tone. How is it, we might ask, with patients, if they are such, who lack any sense of expression and tone, while preserving unchanged their comprehension of words, patients of an exactly opposite kind? We have a number of such patients also in the aphasia ward, although technically they do not have aphasia, but instead a form of agnosia, in particular a so-called tonal agnosia. For such patients, typically, the expressive qualities of voice disappear, their tone, their timbre, their feeling, their entire character, while words and grammatical constructions are perfectly understood. Such tonal agnosias, or aprosodias, are associated with disorders in the right temporal lobe of the brain, whereas the aphasias go to disorders in the left temporal lobe. Among the patients with tonal agnosia in our aphasia ward, who also listened to the president's speech, was Emily D., with a glioma in her right temporal lobe, a former English teacher and poetess of some repute, with an exceptional feeling for language and strong powers of analysis and expression. Emily D. was able to articulate the opposite situation, how the president's speech sounded to someone with tonal agnosia. Emily D. could no longer tell if the voice was angry, cheerful, sad, whatever, since voices now lacked expression. She had to look at people's faces, their postures, and movements when they talked, and found herself doing so with a care, an intensity which she had never shown before. But this, it so happened, was also limited because she had a malignant glaucoma and was rapidly losing her sight too. What she then found she had to do was to pay extreme attention to exactness of words and word use, and to insist that those around her did the same. She could less and less follow loose speech or slang, speech of an elusive or emotional kind, and more required that her interlocutors that they speak prose, proper words in proper places. Prose, she found, might compensate in some degree for lack of perceived tone or feeling. In this way, she was able to preserve, even enhance the use of expressive speech, in which the meaning was wholly given by the apt choice of reference of words, despite being more and more lost with evocative speech, where meaning is wholly given in the use and sense of tone. Emily D. also listened, stony-faced, to the president's speech, bringing to it a strange mixture of enhanced and defective perceptions, precisely the opposite mixture to those of our aphasiacs. It did not move her. No speech now moved her, and all that was evocative, genuine, or false completely passed by her. Deprived of emotional reaction, was she then, like the rest of us, transported or taken in? By no means. He is not cognate, she said. He does not speak good prose. His word use is improper. Either he is brain damaged or he has something to conceal. Thus, the president's speech did not work for Emily D. either, due to her enhanced sense of formal language, propriety as prose, any more than it worked for aphasiacs, and with their word deafness but enhanced sense of tone. Here then was the paradox of the president's speech. We normals, aided, doubtless, by our wish to be fooled, were indeed well and truly fooled. Populus volt decepti ergo decipiatur. And so cunningly was the deceptive word use combined with the deceptive tone that only the brain damaged remained intact, undeceived. So that is one story in The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. Very interesting. Very interesting. Let me know if you want me to do something similar like this again. Do you want to hear another clinical tale of psychology? Was that interesting? Maybe it's too interesting to fall asleep to, but some people, there's different uses for ASMR. Some people just watch it because they enjoy it. Let me know what you think of this microphone. I think it sounds really, really nice on my voice. This would not sound as good if I was just using the Zoom. But I am actually using the Zoom to record this microphone, but if I was using the microphones on the Zoom, But yeah, let me know if you want some more reading by the fireside. I might even add some ambient noise of fire crackling, really quiet in the background. Don't know why I forgot that word. Leave a like on this video, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Do you like the new microphone? Should we do more videos like this where I try to read you to sleep? Or am I not good enough at reading? Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.